Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We just passed 570, 580, and 590 subs. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and I hope I can continue to make great content you guys will enjoy in the future. Now, Garway Dual has decided to recommit to the Providence Friars. This is a huge move right here for the Friars overall because of the fact you look at Kim English. This is his first season as the Providence head coach. Now that Ed Cooley left Providence for the Georgetown Hoyas, and getting a recommitment from Garway Dual, a 4-star recruit, a top 50 player, a 6'5" guard who has a lot of talent and potential. There are flaws in his game, but this is a big re-addition for the Providence Friars. If they lose him to another program, and there were a ton of suitors that were looking at Garway Dual in the transfer portal, like Indiana and a lot of other programs, St. John's, Rick Pitino's now there with the Red Storm. That's definitely a potential place that Garway Dual could have went to, but there are a lot of teams that wanted Garway Dual once he decommitted from the Providence Friars. And Ed Cooley did a great job bringing him on to Providence, but now Kim English has been able to keep Garway Dual. What does this mean for the future of Providence? Can Providence end up being one of the best teams in the Big East next season and potentially be a title contender in the conference? And what does this mean for Kim English in his first season as the head coach of the Providence Friars? Now, overall, looking at this move for Garway Dual, he's a guy that has a lot of talent, as I said before. He's a 6'5" guard. He does struggle to shoot the three ball, but he's gotten a lot better at it. He can shoot the three. He's a good guard at getting downhill. He's not the biggest body in the world, but he can take contact and get to the foul line. And he's definitely a player that's improved throughout his high school career, and that's why he's moved up the high school rankings from a 3-star to a 4-star recruit over his senior season. And he's definitely a guy that is worthy of being at a Power 6 school. And again, a lot of programs were wanting Garway Dual. But you look at Providence. Kim English is in his first season as the head coach of Providence, and losing Ed Cooley to Georgetown was horrible for the Providence Friars because Providence was building momentum. They were starting to bring in transfers like Bryce Hopkins and so many other players. They also brought in Al Durham the year before, and Providence was trending upwards in the Big East, and things were looking really great for Providence in the future, that potentially they could compete still with the UConns and the Marquettes and the Xaviers in the Big East Conference. But Providence loses Ed Cooley, and things maybe are starting to take a downward trend for Providence. But look what Kim English has done since he's been the head coach of Providence. He's kept Bryce Hopkins at Providence. He could have potentially went pro. He could have transferred to Georgetown or some other program, but Bryce Hopkins, the former Kentucky player, the leading scorer for Providence this past season at 17 points per game, is returning to the Friars. They also get Devin Carter back, the former South Carolina guard. He was great for Providence this past season. Both players are back. They're also bringing in Josh Aduro and Devontae Gaines, both transfers from George Mason. Justin Fernandez, also from George Mason, and also Richard Barron, a former commit to George Mason. And all those players are following Kim English to the Providence Friars. So you look at a lot of these teams that have new coaches that are starting to take over a new program. Yes, the transfer portal really helps in college basketball to be able to build a team in year one, like TJ Otzelberger's done at Iowa State, and a lot of other coaches have done at a lot of schools. But Kim English, the well was looking kind of dry potentially for Providence, especially if they were going to lose Bryce Hopkins and Devin Carter and some of these other players to the transfer portal. He's brought all these players back, and he's brought a lot of players from George Mason along with them, and you also are now getting a recommitment from Garway Dual, who is a fantastic basketball player in high school that could potentially have a great college career. And they also got Donovan Santoro to stay committed as well from the high school rankings. And also Providence is looking at Graham Ike in the transfer portal, and Taron Armstrong and some of these other really solid players in the transfer portal overall. Providence is in great shape right now. Kim English can sell the fact that he's gotten all these players to return, that, hey, we got a good basketball team brewing in the Big East. Ed Cooley might be gone, but we're not. Providence is still going to be toward the top of the Big East. Come here to play, and you'll have a lot of success. So I think Kim English, the well is not dry. He's doing a fantastic job with this roster, keeping it together, getting all the big pieces back, and Garway Dual was the last one. You got Bryce Hopkins back. You got Devin Carter. You got a lot of these George Mason transfers. If you can get a player like Graham Ike, that would be huge as well. But Garway Dual is a very important re-addition for Providence, because if you lose into another program, I think that would show that Providence cannot compete with some of these other teams in the space of getting top high school players. Garway Dual is not a type of player that Providence would normally get. He is a really good player, a top 50 guard. He's the type player that a lot of blue bloods would look at, and a lot of great programs as well. Providence is trending in the right direction, and Ed Cooley was doing a great job with the Friars. He was there for a decade, had a lot of stability. He's gone. It looked like Providence could potentially be in a lot of hot water. Now with Kim English, you've done all this. You've kept Garway Dual, who is a player that I think will slide in right next to Devin Carter and be able to have a lot of success off of him. Losing Jared Bynum is really tough, but I do think overall Providence has the guard pieces around Garway Dual to help him grow and be able to go off the dribble and be able to drive into the paint, kind of like Al Durham did when Ed Cooley was the head coach. I think that will really help out Garway Dual getting into the paint, getting to the foul line. He does still struggle from the three-point line, so maybe that will be in a bit of an adjustment to the Power 6 level, going up against all those big teams in the Big East. But Garway Dual is definitely a player that Providence keeping is huge overall for the program, and I definitely think it really boosts the ceiling for Providence next year. But still, this is going to be Kim English's first season as a head coach at the Power 6 level. And the Big East Conference is more competitive than ever right now. Villanova is not where they used to be without Jay Wright, but they could potentially get back on track next season. And you look at UConn, Marquette, and Xavier. Those are all teams that are going to be really good next season, more than likely. With Shaka Smart at Marquette, Dan Hurley at UConn, who just won the national title, their 5th national title with the Huskies, and also Sean Miller at Xavier. And now you've got Rick Pitino at St. John's, Ed Cooley at Georgetown. The Big East is full of great coaches, and there's a lot of talent in the conference. So Kim English is going to have to move up to the Power 6 level and be able to mesh this roster together. There's no guarantee that Providence will be a top team in the Big East next season, but a top half team I think is very possible, and you never know. With the roster they have, I think the potential is there that Providence could surprise a lot of people in year one. And Kim English, he has a lot of great connections, and no, he did not have the greatest success at George Mason, but he definitely left George Mason in a better place than when he found it. And overall, I think that Kim English is a coach that has a bright future in college basketball, and bringing all of this talent together and keeping it together at Providence is a great first step for Kim English. No, it's not guaranteed that Providence will have success because of that in his first season as a head coach of Providence. Kim English could struggle in his first season overall, but I think bringing back a player like Garway Dual inspires a lot of confidence that Kim English can recruit and be able to convince players to stay. Getting Bryce Hopkins back, I thought, was a great sign. It kind of reminds me of Mike Woodson bringing back Trace Jackson Davis to Indiana, and then he was able to get players like Tamar Bates and Jalen Hood-Schifino in the recruiting rankings. I think you look at a guy overall like Kim English, he's starting to do the same things at Providence, and if he can keep the train rolling, the transfer portal helps out basketball teams. If they can land a player like Graham Ike in the transfer portal in the next few days or upcoming weeks, that will be really huge for Providence. But I think Garway Dual, his recommitment is just as important for Providence than a player like Bryce Hopkins returning. I think Garway Dual is definitely a player that could be a 2 or 3 year player for Providence, improve year over year, and really make Kim English look like a great coach if he can get him to the NBA, because he has NBA talent. I think Garway Dual has a lot of flaws in his game. He definitely has to improve his jump shot, improve at the free throw line, improve as a passer as well, but he's a good rebounder for the guard position, and he's a great player attacking downhill. I think he'll be able to play off the other players on the Providence roster at a high level, but this re-addition for Providence inspires the confidence that Kim English can get a roster together, keep these players committed to Providence when all of these other schools are wanting to take your players. That is huge for Providence, and it's a really good sign for Providence in the future with Kim English as head coach that potentially they could stay as a top half team in the conference. It will be very interesting to see how Kim English does in his first year as head coach. It's not a guarantee they'll have success, because you never know how a first year head coach is going to be able to succeed at a new school, and especially at the Power 6 level, with it being his first job at the Power 6 level. But I do think Kim English getting Garway Dual is a huge re-addition for the program. He's a great player, and all the other players that they were able to get to Providence, like the George Mason transfers and Josh Aduro, Devontae Gaines, and some of the other players they brought in from George Mason, and getting Bryce Hopkins and Devin Carter to come back, and now you got Garway Dual recommitting to Providence. Things are starting to trend up for Kim English in his first season as head coach of the Providence Friars, and now we're going to have to see how they perform once they step out on the court next season. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content, like this video down below, comment down below what you think about Garway Dual recommitting to the Providence Friars, what you think that means for Kim English and the Providence program, that things could continue to be going in the right direction, or whether you think there will be some struggles in year one, and overall what you think about what Kim English has done so far as the Providence head coach. Follow me on Twitter as well, link is in the description, and I will see you next time.